Okay, I want to do a lesson that we were supposed to do last week, but I skipped over, so I want to come back to it. So if you will go and find Unit 5B, Section 5, either in Google Docs or on my Canvas page, and you should print it out. That's what I'm going to be working from, okay? This is going to be solving quadratic equations using a graphing calculator. Now, you should all have graphing calculators. I know some of you have lost yours, some of you left yours at school, so there's a couple choices. You can use Desmos. That can help you. That's just a web page, it's free. And the other thing that you can do is, I know at least on the Apple phone, you can download a TI-84. I'm not sure on the other ones, but you can look and see. You guys are pretty tech savvy, so you should be able to find what you need. So that's what we're going to be working on. Now, if you just listen to this lesson and you're not using your graphing calculator, as I say all the time, it's not going to work. You need to actually attempt these. The nice thing with this being recorded is you can pause it and try it on your calculator, and if you get stuck, you can come back. So let's get started with number 1. Number 1 on the sheet is negative 2x squared plus 16 equals negative 2. The first thing you should notice, if we're doing a graphing calculator, it needs to be equal to 0 because we need to put this into the y equals on our graphing calculator. So I'm going to add that 2 to both sides to get it equal to 0. My equation is equal to 0. So it's negative 2x squared plus 18 equals 0. All right, now if you haven't done so on your graphing calculator, you can clear the memory. This is kind of your own personal choice how often you clear the memory. To clear the memory, you would go second plus 7, 1, 2. Okay, so that's if you need to clear your memory, your choice. I'm going to go to y equals, and this should be something, we've done this enough in class, I'm not going to take too much time putting in the equation. And we're going to put in negative 2x squared plus 18. And then I'm going to hit the graph to see if I can see my entire graph, or do I need to change the window. So I'm going to look at my graph. In my case, I was messing with the window. In your case, you might not be able to see it. So let's pretend it's not working the way you wanted it to, or you can't see it. You can only see part of it. You need to see more of it. In this case, I'm only seeing half of it. So I'm going to go zoom standard. I'm going to look at my original. And so what I'm seeing, and you're probably seeing, is I'm seeing two sides of the parabola. It looks kind of like this, and then it comes back down. And here's my coordinate grid. So it kind of goes off. I know up above that it's going to connect and make a parabola, but I can't see the vertex, okay? So that means it's time to change the window. So let's change our window. We're going to go to Window, top row. And it looked like it was okay where I was, negative 10 is my minimum. But again, this is where you have to engage the brain. And some of you really want me just to tell you how to do it. I'm going to give you an example, but you're going to have to start thinking about what makes the most sense. My x's were fine. I could see it left to right without any problem. What I couldn't see was the top of the parabola. So the top of the parabola, that's going to be our y-axis. So remember, we're not going to change the scale. You can change the scale, mess with it if you want to. You have the time. But the y minimum I'm going to leave as negative 10. But what I couldn't see was the top of the parabola. So I'm going to change my y max, and I'm just taking a guess here. I'm going to change it to 20 to see if I can see the vertex. So I'm going to put 20, and then I'm going to hit graph. Now I'm hoping to see it, and I can see my vertex. And that was just a guess. If I couldn't see it, I'd have to go back to my window and I'd have to try again. Okay, so let's remember our big idea here. Now we're looking at a parabola, but what we're trying to find are solutions, and that is, where does the parabola cross the x-axis? This has been the big idea from day one in this unit. Now remember, there's different ways we refer to that. We refer to that as solutions, or solution, depending, zeros, roots, and then when we were doing word problems, that also referred to where the ball hit the water or the ground. Okay, so we have to remember all the different ways we can refer to it. There also could be two solutions. So if you look at this graph, there are two solutions. One is in the negative and one is in the positive. So we have to do the following steps twice because we can only find one solution at a time. Okay, so let's start finding the solution. And this should look familiar because this is very similar to how we find the vertex. We're going to go to Second Calc. And we're going to look at that menu. Now that we usually choose max or minimum, but this time we want to find where it crosses the x-axis. So the TI-84s or TI-83s refer to that as a 0. And I told you that is sometimes the way we refer to crossing the x-axis because y is 0 at that point. So we're going to choose number 2, 0. Now before you hit that or right after you hit that, you have to decide which solution you want to look at first. So I'm going to look at the negative solution or the left solution first. Okay? And you have to choose one or the other because you can't do them both at the same time. If you try to look at both at the same time, you're going to get an error. So I'm going to focus on my left or my negative one. And just like with a vertex, the first thing it's going to say is left bound. So you move your cursor to the left of the solution on which you are focusing. You can only do one at a time, okay? So I'm going to move it to the left. So in this case, it's going to be below the x-axis. And then as usual, we hit enter. And again, remember what we're doing here is giving the calculator boundaries in which to identify which 0 I want to look at. Then it's going to ask for right bound. And again, you're going to move the cursor to the right of the same solution as above. You can't move it over to the other solution. If you do, you will get an error. So I'm just going to move slightly above the x-axis and to the right of that solution or where the parabola is crossing the x-axis, and then I'm going to hit enter. Okay? Now you should have some boundaries, and between your two boundaries should be one solution. If you've made it really big boundaries and both solutions are inside the boundary, you're not going to get the right answer. Okay, so only one solution should be in your boundaries. Now, as usual, it's going to ask for a guess, and you're going to hit enter because that's where you want the calculator to figure it out. So I hit enter. And so my first 0, my first solution, is going to be -3. That's my first solution. That's the first place it crosses the x-axis. And you can see at the bottom of your screen that is also where y equals 0 because that's a solution. Now to find this other solution, we're going to repeat all that. But now I'm going to focus on the positive solution or the other solution. And I'm going to do all the same steps as above. So you can pause and you can go back to the other steps. I'm just going to say them. So the first thing I'm going to do is Second Calc. I'm going to go to 0. I'm going to go to the left of the other solution. So I have to go all the way up and around the parabola and get to the left of that other solution. I hit enter. Then I have to get to the right of that solution and hit enter. And then I hit guess. And that one's going to be 3. So the solutions to this equation are -3, 3. So try that a couple times, pause it and go back, see if you can figure this out on your own. There's going to be some personal learning that you're going to have to do here. I will try to set up a time when we can do some chat room stuff, but if you can look online, if my explanation is not enough, you can look on Khan Academy, and I'm sure there's other videos out there, but you can always rewind this video and start again and see if you can figure it out from there. But you really need to have your graphing calculator next to you and attempting this. Just writing it down isn't going to be enough for you to understand it. All right, so that's the lesson for here. The homework is Unit 5B, Section 5, odds or evens as usual. I will have you submit it. If we don't get back to school, you can submit it. And once you've submitted it, I will give you the answers so you can check your work. You're not going to get the answers until you've submitted something to me. And it better show some work. All right, till next time. Thanks for listening.